I guess the snow kept everyone away. I can't hear you, dude.
That was because I'm on mute. How about now? Can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
Okay, good. I don't know what happened yesterday. All right, let me just finish this email. All right, so we will pick up where we left off yesterday, the bottom of 17b. Tana Rabbanan. So we're like 4 lines from the bottom. Just as they said you can't cut your hair on Chol Moed, you can't cut your nails either. Even Rabbi Yehuda. So this is Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi Mater. Rabbi Yossi says it's fine to cut your nails. And just like an Avel cannot haircut during his Avelus, same rule, no nail cutting. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi Mater. Rabbi Yossi allows it. Rabbi Yehuda Avel. Ula says we follow Rabbi Yehuda, who forbids it for an Avel. Rabbi Yossi b'moed, but we allow it like Rabbi Yossi on Chol Moed. Shmuel Amar halach Rabbi Yossi b'moed ube'ev. Shmuel says no. We are lenient to follow Rabbi Yossi's permissive position in both cases, Avel and Chol Moed. Because Shmuel says in general, when it comes to Avelus, we follow the less strict opinion. Pinchas Achodim Shmuel Isra ben Milsa. A thing happened, meaning he had a death in the family, to Pinchas, so he was sitting Shiva. Al Shmuel Lemishal Tamaminei. Shmuel came to, we presume this means to be Menachem, to console him. Literally, it means to ask him a reason, which is weird because it sounds like he wants to ask him, like, why do you think you had this death in the family? Like, what's the but that doesn't seem to be relevant. So let's just assume, I don't know if there's any significance to that, but the point is he's there visiting his friend who's an Aleph.
Is there a change in Girsa there? What's the Aleph?
The Aleph is let's see. What is that Aleph?
It should be Isa Lay, not Bay.
Israel Milsa. Oh, that Aleph. I'm looking in the wrong place. Israel Milsa. Okay, but that doesn't address the.
Right.
That's just a scribal error that doesn't have much significance, as far as I know. Anyway, so he's there visiting him. Chazan and Latufre the having the fishin. He saw he's got like long nails. Amalei, Amalo Shakoslu. Why don't you cut them? Amalei, Ibadi day have a me mazals of bay kule high. Okay, so maybe I'm permitted, right? Like maybe we're not so strict about Avelis, but let's say it was you. Then would you be so lenient with yourself? He's like, no, don't tell me to be lenient. I don't feel like being lenient. I'd rather be strict, and you would do the same. Havai kishgagashi otsami milifnei shalit, and it turned out that this was like. So this is a quote from Koheles. It's like a command that goes out, a command in error or a decree in error that goes out from the ruler. As we'll see in a minute, if you have the power to pronounce something and you do it in error, it sometimes happens anyway. V'yisrabe milsad b'Shmuel. So Shmuel had an event happen to him, meaning that he said like, oh, if this happened to you, what would you do? And then it's like by referring to if this happened to you, it actually happened, and Shmuel lost a relative. So al Pinchas achuel lemishal tamine. So Pinchas goes to pay him a visit. Shaklin l'tufrei chavtinu liape. So he Shmuel like cut his fingernails and he threw them at him. At Pinchas. Amarle said, Leis lach baris krusal. Don't you know about this idea that the literally a covenant is cut with the lips, meaning that you should be more careful with what you say. Like you mentioned that what if you were sitting Shiva and look what happened, right? Another good example of this is a medrash about Rachel, right, the wife of Yaakov, when she was childless, and she said to Yaakov, if give me children, and if not, I might as well be dead. And well, she turns out dead. Turns up dead. Well, a few years later, but after having two children. But same idea. Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan brings another source, for example, of this. When do we have this idea? Shanamar, Vayomer Avraham el Narav at the Akedah. Abraham, when he's leaving, when he parts with his helpers, and he goes off with Yitzchak to Har Moriah, he says, "Shulachem po im hachamor, v'ani v'anar nelchad." So you stay here with the donkey, and I and the boy, meaning Yitzchak, will go over there. V'nishtachaveh, and we'll bow to God. V'nashuv aleichem, and we will return. V'stai milsa the hadur tarvayu, and Abraham wasn't expecting for both of them to come back. Nonetheless, he said, "We will come back," and that's how it turned out. So it's like, he's there's a word for it, right? Well, the Gemara's expression is sometimes niva v'lo yada maniva, like he prophesied without being aware of what he was that he was predicting the future. So anyway, back to the Shmuel. They thought that that he meant that you could cut your fingernails and not your toenails. Amar Ravanan Bar Tachlifos, Ravanan says, "Lejidim partially mean Shmuel." I actually heard direct from Shmuel. Loshna diad, loshna barega. It doesn't matter. Fingernails and toenails. There's no difference, and you can be lenient on you can be lenient. Amar Chibar Ravashi, Amar Rav Ubiginostra Asur, but you can't use scissors. Okay, so this is a little weird. So what were we talking about before? That's Rashi translates scissors, and the article translates scissors, but a more reasonable explanation to me seems like Gazostra means nail clippers, like a tool designed specifically for nails, which, like, maybe using scissors, it's harder work. Okay, and so it would be forbidden on Chol Moed, or for an Avel, but with nail clippers, it's like no big deal. Okay, I'm Rav Shemin Bar Abba. Rav Shemin said, "Hava Kaimna Kamid Rav Yochanan Bei Midrasha B'Chol Shemoed." I was in Rav Yochanan's base medrash on Chol Moed. V'Shaklinu L'Tufrei B'Shinei V'Zakinu. He bit his nails off with his teeth, and he threw them aside. Shmami Neitlas, and I learned three things. Shmamina mutar litol tzipronai mechol shomoed. It's okay to cut your nails on Chol Moed. Shmamina ein behem mishum mius, that it's not disgusting to bite your nails. Shmamina mutar lezarkan, and you can throw your nails into a on the floor. But the Gemara says, really, is that right? There are three things about fingernails. Kovran tzadik, if you bury them, you're a tzadik. Sarfan chasid, even better, you're a higher level, a chasid, if you burn them. Zarkan rasha, but if you toss them aside, then you're wicked. Because, my tamamai, why? Shema tabarle nisha ubara vitapil, because if a pregnant woman passes over them, she might miscarry. So there's some kind of, demonology at work here, that there's something about the metaphysical about cut fingernails that could cause a woman to miscarry. So how can it be that
maybe they're just very sharp?
Yeah, you would think so, but like anybody could hurt themselves then, right? It's possible that's the
No, I was just kidding.
Okay. So anyway, so how could Rabbi Yochanan toss his nails aside in the base medrash? So our answer is Isha be midrash lo shlicha. There's no women in the base medrash, so there's nothing to worry about. It's only a danger for pregnant women. What about
the other two refutations?
I'm sorry. Say again.
Oh, but it's still okay to bite them.
Yeah, according to Rabbi Yochanan. Like, so, like, why would you, even if there's no women around, they might get swept out the door, and then women are passing by, and it could still be a problem. So, like, Rabbi Yochanan really should have been more careful with disposing of his fingernails. Kevan di ishtane ishtane. And this is why I think this I think supports the idea that it's just some kind of demonology. That once they've been moved, it's fine. There's no danger anymore. It's only the place where they first land. So if they get swept out the door, they're not a danger to anybody. Rabbi Yehuda said, Zug ba mechamson lifnei Rabbi. A pair of a couple of people came from Chamson before Rabbi. Umar Zitra masnei Zug ba mechamson lifnei Rabbi. And Mar Zutra taught it that it was a brisa. Anyway, and they asked him about the rule about cutting nails. And he said it's okay. And it appeared that, like, from Rebbe's, the way he answered the question, it implied that if they had asked him about trimming their mustaches, he would have allowed that as well. Shmuel said the story was that they actually asked him explicitly, and he said it's fine to trim your mustache. Amar Avitul.
Is this for Chol Moed or Avelus or both?
This is for it's unclear. Could be either. It's not stated explicitly. Amar Avitul Safra Mishmei Rav Papa. Avitul, the Sofer, the scribe, said in the name of Rav, or maybe Rav Papa, depends on the version. Safa mizavis zavis. What does it mean, your mustache, so that you're allowed to trim from one corner of your mouth to the other corner? Amar Avami ubesafa hamakeves. We're talking about a mustache that like interferes with that interferes with putting things in your mouth. In other words, the hair, like that, if it's such a way that it interferes with that. Yeah, to me, like, any hair up there is like troublesome to me. It's like I just feel I can't put food in my mouth when I feel that the hair is growing on my lip. So in other words, it's like if it's a problem for you, then you can that's why you can cut your hair, your mustache. Avitul also said, Paro Shahai B'mei Moshe. This is like nothing to do with anything, but it's quoted by the same guy, Avitul. The Pharaoh that was in the days of Moshe, who Amma, he was only one Amma tall. It was a Kano Amma, and he had a beard that was an Amma long. That was almost dragged on the ground. Upar Mashakto Amma Vizeris, and his penis was an Amma and a finger length. So that dragged on the ground too. That God appoints the lowest of men to kingship. Okay, so in other words, he was a very low person physically. Okay, do with that what you will. Oh, sorry. Something. He also said, he was a Amgushi. What does Amgushi mean? So we have there's two possibilities. One is that he was a blasphemer, right? And the other is that he was a magician or some kind of a wizard. Shanamar, Hine Yosemaima. Paro, when God sends Moshe to confront Paro, he says,
I think you skipped a line. Amar Avitul Safra.
Yeah. We're at the last Amar Avitul, which is on 18a, towards the bottom, just before the two dots, like 6 lines up. Okay.
Can you just repeat this? The line above that, Amar, the one that starts Avitul?
Yeah. Avitul Safra Mishmei Rav. Avitul the Sofer also said, Paro Shahib Moshe, the Pharaoh in the day of Moshe, Amgushi Haya, he was an Amgushi, which means either a wizard or a blasphemer. Shanamar, as the Torah says, Hinei Se'amayma, when God sends Moshe to confront Paro, he says, look, here Paro is going out to the river, to the water. So There could be two reasons he was going out to the water. One is that's where he did his magic, or that's where the river was considered a god, and he was like going to elevate himself above his own god. So just another anecdote told by this Avitul. Back to the mission.
Yeah.
These who can do their laundry on Chol Hamoed. Somebody who's coming from an overseas trip, right? So obviously, while he was on the trip, he couldn't wash his clothes. He's got no clean clothes for Yantiv. So because he didn't have time, because he came back on Chol Hamoed, he can now wash his clothes. Amar Ravasi said, also somebody who only has one shirt, so he's got to wear his shirt every day, and it gets dirty. So what's he supposed to do? It's not because he was lazy and didn't do it before Yantiv. He may have washed it before Yantiv, and now he's got to wash it again because it's his only shirt. So he can wash his shirt on Yantiv. Masir of Yirmiyah. I'm sorry, on Chol Moed. Masir of Yirmiyah. So Rav Yirmiyah asks, so our Mishnah has a list of who can wash their clothes, and it doesn't mention somebody who has only one shirt. Hanayin. It doesn't include the one shirt guy. Rav Yaakov answers, Azrael, I'll explain it to you. Our Mishnah is talking about only people who have more than one shirt. Okay, so like it's like obviously, if you have one shirt, you can wash it on Chol Moed. Our Mishnah is telling you the exceptions for people who have two shirts or more. They can still there's still exceptions because they came from overseas or whatever. Shalach Rav Yitzchak bar Yaakov bar Giyari Mishmei Rav Yochanan. Rav Yitzchak sent the following: Klei pishtan mutar lachavsim b'chol shel moed. If you have linen clothes, you can wash those on Chol Moed. So a couple of things about linen clothes. Possibly they don't get dirty so easily. It doesn't seem so plausible, or it's easier to wash them, which. I don't know. I just put my clothes in the machine, whether they're cotton wool or linen. So I wouldn't really know. But the idea is that if it's less effort, then it's not such a big deal. If you have like hand towels or the sheets that barbers put over you when they cut your hair, so those you're allowed to wash on Chol Moed. Okay, so presumably because it's like the one shirt guy, like they get used, right? You may have washed it before Yantiv, but it doesn't help. So Hani'in, Kli Pishan Lo. So this lists types of clothing you can wash on Chol Moed and doesn't list linen. So how can you say linen is also an exception? So my answers, Masnisin Afilu Desharmine. Our Mishnah is talking about like. Sure, everybody knows that linen is allowed, but our Mishnah is saying, but even cotton, if it's a barber's thing or a hand towel, then you can still wash it. Okay, a little unsatisfied, a little unfulfilling answer, but that's where the Gemara leaves it. Amar Bar Hidayah. Bar Hidayah says, "Lididi Chazili Yama Shel Tiberia." I was at the Kinneret, the Sea of Tiberia. The Mapkela Meshichle Demane Kitna Bechula Demoed. People were taking like laundry baskets full of linen to the lake on Chol Moed to wash in there. So doesn't that indicate isn't that another proof that linen garments are okay to wash on Chol Moed? So I asked, you saw people doing it. Does that mean they were doing the right thing? Like maybe they were doing it. Maybe they were doing it against the rules of the rabbis. So that's another proof. Nonetheless, it seems like we stick with the idea that linen you can wash on Chol Moed. Okay, next Mishnah. Elu kosfin b'moed. Here are people or things that can be written on Chol Moed. Kiddushay nashim, the marriage documents, vigitin or divorce documents, v'shovrin or receipts, daitike, wills, last will and testament, matana, giving of a gift, uprosbelin, and that's when you hand over your loans to Beis Din for the Shemitah year, so that you can still collect them. Igros shum or evaluation letters, the igros madam, like promises of support of like alimony, I guess, kind of thing. Shtori chalitza meyunim. So the documents associated with chalitza, which is when you refuse to participate in a levirate marriage, or meyun, which is when a young girl is young orphan is betrothed by her brothers on her behalf, and then she has the option to reject it when she reaches the age of 12. So that's called meyun. So that can be done on Chol Moed. Shtari berurin. These are contracts of how to divide an estate, Xeros basing, and court records, the Igros shell rishus, and government, like official business letter, like or records of, of like legislation, I guess you would say. So Amar Shmuel. So these are all, like, in general, these are all things that are, if you don't do them now, you might not have the opportunity later. Like, people could change their minds, right? Or somebody could die, or, the government can be fickle. So these are all things that have an urgency about them that need to be addressed on Chol Moed. Amar Shmuel. Shmuel says, you can get engaged to a woman in Chol Moed. And presumably there's a document, some kind of an agreement between the families or something, because somebody else might, if you wait till after Chol Moed, somebody else might come and take your place.
Isn't that what Tanayim is?
Yeah, probably right. Yeah. Maybe we have a support for Shmuel. The Elukosvim b'moed kiddushin nashim. So maybe our mission was referring to that when it says that marriage documents. Maybe this is included in marriage documents. My love story kiddushin mamish. Isn't that what we're talking about? The actual contract of marriage? Well, Gemara says no. Share pisikta. It could be like associated documents, the Tanaim, as you say, not the marriage contract itself, not the ketubah, or maybe it's talking about, maybe the Mishnah could be talking about, a man can marry a woman not only with a ring or with any kind of monetary value, but also through a contract in which he doesn't give her anything. There's a written document. So that's what the Mishnah is referring to, and this other statement by Shmuel was referring also to the Tanai. Could Rav Gidol Amarav, like Rav Gidol, the Amar of Gidol Amarav, Kama Atanosin Libincha. This is like how the engagement proceeds. How much are you giving to your son? Kach v'kach. So the father said, "I'm giving you, X dollars." Kama Atanosin Libincha. And how much are you throwing in for your daughter? Kach v'kach. So and so. Amdu v'kichu kan. So if the parents get up and they make the deal, then that's like a binding obligation. These are things that are like can be contracted verbally. So Shmuel says that recording this for proof that it happened, I guess, is okay to do on Chol Moed. It's a little strange because it sounds like it's binding even if they don't write it down. But just like some of the other things, it's like if I lend you money, it's binding. But if we don't have a contract, how can I prove it later? Okay. Maybe we have a different derivation from the Mishnah to support Shmuel's idea about the Tanaim, that you can do it on Chol Moed. Ein nosi nashim b'moed. You can't get married. You can't marry women on Chol Moed. Lo b'sulos lo almanos, regardless of whether they've been married before or if they're widows. Lo miyavmin. We also don't do yibum b'pnei shesimcha hilo, because it's like the guy is the brother who's getting married. It's a festive occasion for him. I think we had this before, but I think it's like he's getting to carry on his brother's name and so on. Like maybe for the woman it's not so great, but anyway, it's considered a festive occasion. So So you don't mix in Marvin Simcha Simcha. You don't add on like a separate festive occasion onto Chol Moed. Hal Ares Shari. Okay, so since the rule is you can't get married, maybe it's okay to get engaged. Lo by Kamar. No, the Gemara says maybe it means like not only this formulation. Lo by Lares, lo gavin mitzvah, ella afilu lisanami. Not only can you not get engaged where there's no mitzvah yet, like the mitzvah of getting married is like having children and whatever. But I feel lisanami, like even actually getting married. So when the Mishnah says you can't get married, it means you even can't get married, and it's assumed that you can't get engaged either. Okay, that's a little odd. That's like usually we have a higher standard of how to interpret the Mishnah, but fine. Tashma. Let's try again. The Tana Dvei Shmuel, they taught in the yeshiva of Shmuel, Ma'arsin of a low konsi. Here it says explicitly you can get engaged, but you can't get married. Ve'eno sin suda seresin, and you can't make a festive meal for the engagement. Below miyabin, and you can't do yibum. Because it's a source of joy. Shmamina, so this is an explicit source that no getting engaged either on Chol Moed. So wait, so Shmuel's reasoning was because somebody else might swoop in and marry the woman instead of you. Did Shmuel really say that? Shmuel said in Shmuel's name. Every day a heavenly voice comes out and says, Bas ploni leploni, sedei ploni leploni. Like these things are predestined, right? That these two people are going to get married. This person is going to have this property. So if it's predestined that A is going to marry B, then how could it be that somebody else will come and take his place? So my answer is maybe somebody will. That this is not a fait accompli. These kind of heavenly determinations, who's destined for who. It could be changed by somebody. Could pray. Someone really fell in love with someone who is destined for somebody else or whatever. He really wants to marry her, and he prays for it. It can be done. Kihada Rava, like happened with Rava. Shamelo Gavra Debai Rachmai. He heard somebody praying, crying. He was praying for mercy. The Amar Tizdaminli Planisa. Let this woman, like, I should be able to marry this woman. So Rava said, Loti Bai Rachmai. Okay, this is not how you ask God's mercy. Lo Azlaminach. Like if she's destined for you, then she's destined for you. Then she'll end up marrying you anyway, prayer or not. Vilo kafart bashem. And if she doesn't end up marrying you, then like it's inappropriate to ask God for something that is that's not going to happen, or that God can't do, as it were. Basar Hachi Shami Dekamar, and then after that he heard him saying, O ihu lemus mikama, O ihi tamus mikame. Like let me die before she does, or she dies before me. In other words, like it would be so painful for me to see her marry somebody else that either let her die first or before she marries this other guy, or I should die first so I shouldn't have to see it. So Rava said, Lava minulach lotibay Allah de milsach. Didn't I tell you not to pray for this stuff? So Rava apparently is of the opinion that that you cannot like Rava appears to be of the opinion that you should not pray for this, that it won't work. So it's a little strange that the Gemara appeared to be bringing this as a support, but really it seems to be against the idea that somebody could pray for the destined marriage to be overturned.
Is it possible he was just saying don't do it because maybe your prayers won't be answered? Like it might work, but it's inappropriate for a person of your stature to do that.
Oh, so you're saying like it implies that it could happen.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't, then you'll think that, oh, it's because God's not listening to me or God doesn't listen at all or something. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Amar Rav Mishum Rabbi Reuven ben Itztrabili. Rav said in the name of this Reuven ben Itztrabili. Mina Torah, Mina Nevim, Mina Ksuvim, Me Hashem, Isha Leish. You can see proofs in both the Torah, the Navi, and the Ksuvim that it's God who determines who gets to marry who. Mina Torah Dichsiv, in the Torah it says, Vayan Lavan and Besual Vayamru Hashem Yasad Davar. When Lavan and Besual are confronted with Eliezer and story and saying how Rivka is the one for Yitzhak, they say must be that this is ordained by God, and so they agreed. Mina Nevim, prophets. This is referring to Shimshon, right? When he married a foreign woman from the Plishtim, his parents were very upset, but they didn't know that it was destined by God, like this was God's plan. Min Ksuvim Dichsiv and Ksuvim Bais Vahon Nachlas Avos Ume Hashem Isha Maskalas. A house and wealth are inherited from your parents, from your fathers, your ancestors, but from God you get a smart woman. Okay, indicating that that this is destiny, not just whatever. It's like it comes from God who you marry. Okay. Since we're talking about Rabbi Reuven, he also said, some say it was a Mishnah or Brisa. If a person is suspected of something, it means that there's some truth to it. If he didn't do the whole thing, at least he had something to do with it, right? There's like so there's got to be some foundation to rumors. So hear her believe Alasas, and if he didn't do any of it, then he wanted to do it. And if he wasn't even thinking of it, he saw somebody else doing it, and he was happy about it. Okay, so in other words, there's no rumor without some kind of a kernel of of truth to it. Masi Rabbi Yaakov. So Rabbi Yaakov asked, "Vayachpu b'nei Yisrael dvarim asher lochen al Hashem Elokein." The people they suspected God of betraying them, when really they were exiled because of their own sins, but they kind of turned around and they blamed God. So like, are we saying that really God was happy about it or wanted it, or he actually partly did it, when the Navi says that no, it was entirely because of the people's sins? So Gemara says, no, they knew that they were just making up nonsense. They were just doing it to anger God in the first place. So it wasn't really a rumor; it was a malicious rumor. Tashma. Here's a proof. This is from Tehillim, where the chapter in Tehillim which recounts the whole Exodus story. So they were jealous of Moshe in the camp, and they were jealous of Aharon, God's holy person. Shmuel said, that means that everybody, like the word Vayikanu means they were jealous, but it also is a formal term, which in the case of a sota, if the husband has to, in order for a woman to be liable for the sota ceremony ritual, it has to be a case where the husband warns her against secluding herself with this guy that she ends up secluding herself with. And that's called kina. So we get from this verse that everybody warned their wives about being secluded with Moshe. So in other words, they all thought Moshe was going to sleep with their wives. So like, it's ridiculous to think that Moshe wanted to sleep with every woman he saw. We're not going to accept that. So in that case, like, why would you say that every rumor has a kernel of truth? Well, you're going to say that about Moshe Rabbeinu. So we're answering, no, that was also a malicious rumor. They were angry at Moshe. They hated Moshe, whatever. So they made up these nasty rumors, not because they actually heard it or had reason to suspect, but they were just making trouble. Tashma is another proof. Amar B'Yossi, Yehei Chalki Misha Choshnin also B'Davar Ve'Inbo. May I should have like my reward with somebody who's suspected of something that he has no liability for. So that indicates that you want to be like that. There is such a case of a rumor that has no foundation. Rav Papa says, I was suspected of something. I was completely innocent. So this also indicates that if you're innocent, you're innocent. Like, why does Ruvain say that there's always something to us? Gemara says, lo kasha, not a problem. Haba kala the pasik. Depends what kind of rumor. If you mean just a random rumor that nobody takes seriously and doesn't spread, then that somebody could be completely innocent of. But if the rumor has legs, right, and it really gets around, and people keep talking about it, that means that there's something to it. We call it pasik. So what does it mean if it spreads? It spreads how far? My mother or my foster mother told me, Dume demasa yomo palga. A day and a half. If it's a day and a half later and people are still talking about it, must be there's something to it. Otherwise, it would have run out of steam. That's if it's like constant during that time. But if it's like I told it to you this morning and then nobody hears about it again, then tomorrow afternoon you spread it again, you start to spread it. That doesn't count as continuing to spread. If it's constantly being repeated and passed along, that would only work if there's a reason to be suspicious. But if not, then there's no reason to be suspicious. And even if it's interrupted, that's only if it didn't stop because people were afraid to repeat it. But if it stops spreading because people are afraid, like if you hear me repeating this rumor, you'll beat me up, then that doesn't count. That is something that's still spreading. If it didn't like pop up again with the same intensity, but if it pops up again, look, then we say it's not without foundation, that it is a rumor that has a basis. And we don't say that that's if you have the person who's being rumored about has no enemies. But if he has enemies, it's because that's why there are rumors spreading about him, because people wish him ill, not because there's any foundation to the rumor. And let's stop at this mission and pick it up tomorrow morning.
Thank you very much, Dove.
Okay, Boker Tov, have a good day.
Stay warm.
You too.